My name is Joanna B. Campos. I'm 33 years old, and until a few months ago, I thought the strangest thing about my life was that my upstairs neighbor vacuumed at midnight every Thursday. I live alone in a decent one-bedroom apartment I have been renting for about 3 years. Nothing luxurious, nothing dramatic, just mine. I work full-time as a software engineer, usually a standard 9 to 5, and most evenings I come home, make dinner, play guitar for a while, and enjoy the quiet. My boyfriend Daniel calls it my little cave because everything in it is dark wood, black metal, leather, and the kind of simple furniture that does its job without asking for attention. My parents live about 20 minutes away. They have a spare key for emergencies, something I used to think was practical. Now even saying that makes my stomach twist. The first change was my coffee table. I remember standing in the doorway one evening, still holding my laptop bag, staring at the center of my living room like it had insulted me. My coffee table had always been dark wood, almost espresso-colored. But there it was, suddenly light oak, smoother, brighter, softer. I walked around it twice. I even crouched down and touched the edge, as if my fingers could prove my eyes wrong. I called Kevin, my closest friend from work, and asked him the most ridiculous question I had ever asked anyone. Do you remember what color my coffee table was? He laughed at first, then he went quiet. Dark, he said. Definitely dark. Why? I told him it was lighter now. He asked if I had bought a new one and forgotten. I said no, but after I hung up, the word forgotten stayed in my head like a warning. When I mentioned it to my mother during our weekly phone call, she laughed in that breezy way she does when she wants something to sound harmless. Joanna, honey, you probably mixed it up with furniture from your old place. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Then my kitchen chairs changed. I used to have black metal chairs with gray cushions. Not fancy, but sturdy, simple, mine. One night I came home and found white wooden chairs with floral cushions tucked neatly under the table. Floral cushions. I stood there with my keys still in my hand, staring at pink and green little flowers like they were evidence at a crime scene. Daniel came over that night and noticed immediately. When did you start liking cottage grandma chic? He asked, smiling at first. I didn't, I said. His smile faded when he saw my face. After that, the bathroom towels were replaced. My plain navy blue towels disappeared and were replaced with soft pink ones with little decorative borders. They were folded perfectly in the linen closet, like they had always belonged there. I pulled one out and held it in both hands, feeling suddenly cold. I checked my bank statements. Nothing. No furniture stores, no online orders, no strange charges. I checked my email, my Amazon account, even old receipts and drawers. Nothing connected to any of it. The worst part was how intentional everything looked. Nothing was random. Whoever was doing this was not just swapping items. They were redesigning my life. Yesterday was the final straw. I came home from work exhausted, opened my apartment door, and stopped so suddenly that my bag slipped off my shoulder. My black leather couch was gone. In its place sat a beige fabric sectional covered in the throw pillows. Too many throw pillows, all coordinated in creams, blush, and pale green. My sleek black entertainment center had been replaced by a rustic farmhouse-style piece that looked like it belonged in a lifestyle magazine, not in the home of a woman who owned 3 black hoodies and a guitar pedal collection. For a second, I honestly thought I had walked into the wrong apartment. Daniel arrived 20 minutes later. He looked around, then looked at me. Joanna, he said carefully, you swear you didn't do this? That careful tone scared me more than the furniture. I swear. He stepped closer and took my hand. Then someone is coming in here. I called my parents immediately. My father sounded confused and suggested maybe the landlord had done maintenance. My mother wondered if I had been ordering things while stressed and forgetting about them. People do strange things when they're tired, she said softly. That was the moment something inside me cracked. Because memory issues run in my family. Because I had already spent nights lying awake, wondering if I was losing pieces of myself. Because every changed chair, every strange towel, every new soft color in my apartment felt like someone whispering, "You don't know your own life anymore." But Daniel believed me. Kevin believed me. And deep down, beneath the fear, something sharper was starting to form. My apartment was not changing by itself. Someone was changing it. And whoever it was had a key. The idea of installing cameras made me feel ridiculous at first. I kept imagining myself checking footage, only to find that I was sleepwalking through furniture websites, opening boxes, and decorating my own apartment like some haunted home makeover show. But after Daniel said the word key, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Kevin was the one who sent me the link to the hidden cameras. "Just do it," he said. "Either you get proof someone's coming in, or you get peace of mind." So I bought 3. One looked like a phone charger, one looked like a digital clock, and the third looked like a small speaker. I put one in the living room, one in the bedroom, and one in the kitchen. I tested the app twice, adjusted the angles, and then stood in the middle of my apartment, feeling like a paranoid stranger inside my own home. For 3 days, nothing happened. Then Wednesday came. I was at work around 2 in the afternoon, halfway through debugging a stubborn piece of code, when my phone buzzed with a motion alert. My heart dropped before I even opened the app. I told myself it was probably a bug, probably a shadow, probably anything except what Daniel and I had started to suspect. Then the video loaded. My parents walked into my apartment like they owned it. My mother came in first, carrying a folder and what looked like a home decor catalog. My father followed with a tape measure in one hand and a notebook in the other. I sat frozen at my desk, my headphones still on, watching my mother point toward the wall behind my couch. Her expression was focused, calm, almost pleased. My father measured the space near the bookshelf, wrote something down, then moved toward the hallway. They were not sneaking. They were not nervous. They were comfortable. That was the part that made my skin crawl. For 45 minutes, they walked through every room. My mother took pictures of my shelves, my bedroom wall, even the small table by my front door where I kept my keys and mail. At one point, she sat on my beige sectional, the one I had never wanted, and spread fabric samples across the coffee table like she was meeting with a client. I saved everything. That evening, I drove to my parents' house with my laptop in the passenger seat. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, but not from fear anymore. Something had shifted. I wasn't wondering if I was losing my mind. I was wondering how long they had been willing to let me believe that I was. My mother opened the door smiling. "Joanna, what a surprise." I walked past her into the living room. My father looked up from the television. "We need to talk," I said. I placed the laptop on their coffee table and played the footage. For a few seconds, no one spoke. My mother's face tightened, not with guilt, not with shock, but with irritation. "You put cameras in your apartment?" she asked. My father leaned forward, squinting at the screen. "Those are pretty clear. How much did those cost?" I stared at them. "That's what you're concerned about?" My mother folded her arms. "I'm concerned that my daughter thinks it's acceptable to spy on her parents. You were in my apartment without my permission." "We have a key," she said, as if that explained everything. "For emergencies." "This is family," she replied. "Family is different." Then she told me the plan. Apparently, my older sister Jessica was moving back to town in 2 months after her divorce. According to my parents, she would be staying with me for a while until she got back on her feet. My apartment was being made more comfortable for her, more welcoming, more feminine, more peaceful. I remember blinking at my mother, waiting for the part where she admitted she was joking. It never came. "Jessica is moving in with me," I said slowly. My father nodded like this had been discussed. "It makes the most sense. Rent is expensive, and you have a stable place. I have a 1-bedroom apartment. You and Jessica shared a room when you were little," my mother said. "You loved it." "I was 7. My mother gave me that look. The one that said I was being difficult on purpose. "She is your sister, Joanna. She has been through a painful divorce. She needs support. She never asked me. She shouldn't have to, my father said. Family steps up. The words landed heavily because I knew what they meant in my family. Family steps up meant Joanna gives in. Family helps family meant Joanna sacrifices quietly. Family comes first meant my boundaries came last. I asked where my original furniture was. My mother sighed. Joanna, honestly, that black couch was too harsh. Jessica needs a softer environment. And so do you, if I'm being honest. So you stole my furniture? We improved your space, she said. My father jumped in with numbers about rent, divorce costs, and how Jessica's ex-husband had left her in a difficult financial situation. My mother added that Jessica had always admired my apartment's potential and that this could be good for both of us. You two could reconnect, she said. Have coffee in the mornings, watch movies at night. It could be like when you were girls. I felt a sharp, bitter laugh rise in my throat. You redecorated my apartment for a roommate I never agreed to have. My mother's eyes filled with tears so quickly it almost looked rehearsed. I cannot believe how selfish you sound. There it was. The switch. The moment when my anger became cruelty in their version of the story. My father's voice lowered. Your mother and I are disappointed. A good daughter would understand what her sister needs. I closed the laptop. No, a good parent would ask before breaking into their adult child's home. My mother flinched like I had slapped her. I stood up, my whole body trembling. Jessica is not moving into my apartment. You are never entering my home again without permission. And I want my original furniture returned. My father said my name sharply. My mother started crying harder. But I walked out before either of them could pull me back into the guilt. That night, Daniel came over and found me sitting on the unwanted beige couch, staring at the door. He sat beside me quietly. Are you okay? No, I said. But at least now I know I'm not crazy. He reached for my hand. I should have felt relieved. Instead, one question kept pressing against my ribs. Did Jessica know? I changed the locks that weekend. The locksmith asked if there had been a break-in. I almost laughed because technically, yes, but not the kind people imagine. No shattered glass, no crowbar. Just two parents with a spare key and complete confidence that love gave them permission to cross any line they wanted. When he finished, I held the new keys in my palm for a long time. They felt heavier than keys should feel. I did not give my parents a copy. My mother called 17 times the first day. 17. The calls came one after another while I was trying to work, each one making my phone vibrate across my desk like an accusation. I finally turned it face down, but that did not stop the messages. How could you do this to us? We are your parents. This is not how family treats family. Your sister needs you. That last one made me call Jessica. We had not spoken much since Christmas. Not because we hated each other, but because life had stretched distance between us. Her divorce had been messy, and I knew she had been staying with her college friend Amanda. I expected the call to be awkward. I did not expect it to completely change the shape of the story. Mom and Dad said you were moving in with me, I said. There was silence. Then Jessica said, What? I told her everything. The furniture, the cameras, the plan, the beige sectional, the floral chairs. The way they had spoken about making my apartment suitable for her recovery, as if I were a guest in my own home. By the time I finished, Jessica sounded like she was about to cry. Joanna, I had no idea, she said. I swear to you, I just signed a lease across town 2 weeks ago. I believed her immediately. There was no performance in her voice, no defensiveness, only humiliation. She kept apologizing even though she had done nothing wrong. I hate that they dragged my divorce into this, she whispered. That was the first time I heard how exhausted she really was. My parents, however, were not exhausted. They were furious. My father showed up the following Tuesday with a locksmith, apparently convinced he could simply undo my decision. I watched from the hallway camera as he stood outside my door, arms crossed, while the locksmith asked for proof that he lived there. My father had none. The locksmith left. My father stayed in his car outside my building for almost an hour, calling my work phone and leaving voicemails that grew colder with each message. The furniture became its own battle. They insisted my original pieces were gone, thrown away because they had been replacing them with better quality items. I told them they had 1 week to return everything, or I would file a police report for theft and unlawful entry. Suddenly, my furniture reappeared. Funny how that worked. They dropped it all off while I was at work, leaving my black leather couch and dark wood coffee table in the hallway outside my apartment like a punishment. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, left a note on my door asking if I was moving out because a couch was blocking the fire exit. I dragged everything back inside with Daniel's help that night. When the black leather couch was finally back in its place, I stood in the living room and felt something unclench in my chest. For a few weeks, I thought the worst was over. Then came my cousin Michael's wedding. My mother had clearly been busy. By the time I arrived at the reception, at least 3 relatives had already heard that I was going through a difficult phase and not speaking to my family. Aunt Patricia touched my arm and asked if I needed support. Uncle David asked whether I was under too much work stress. Someone else asked if Daniel and Anne were having problems. That was when I understood. My parents were rewriting the story before I could tell the truth. So I told it. Not dramatically, not loudly, just calmly, every time someone asked. I said my parents had been entering my apartment without permission, replacing my furniture, and planning to move Jessica in without asking me. I said I had changed the locks because they would not respect my home. The reactions told me more than I expected. Aunt Patricia looked horrified and admitted my mother had done similar things with her children. Uncle David laughed under his breath and said, "That sounds like Linda." My grandmother, my mother's own mother, pulled me aside near the dessert table and said, "Your mother has always believed control is the same thing as care." But the comment that stayed with me came from my cousin Sarah. "I always felt bad for you," she said quietly. "Everyone noticed how differently they treated you and Jessica. We just didn't think it was our place to say anything." I smiled because I did not know what else to do. The truth was validating, but it also hurt. People had seen it. For years, people had seen it. My parents spent the rest of the wedding barely speaking to me. My mother asked everyone except me how they were doing. My father talked sports with other relatives while pretending I was invisible. But Jessica stayed beside me most of the night. When my mother tried to bring up the apartment situation again, Jessica looked her directly in the eye and said, "Do not use my divorce as an excuse for what you did to Joanna." The table went silent. For the first time in years, I did not feel alone in my own family. 3 months later, I thought the apartment situation had finally settled into something manageable. Not peaceful exactly. My parents were still sulking, still speaking to me in clipped sentences at family gatherings, still acting as though changing my locks had been some historic betrayal. But my apartment was mine again. My black leather couch was back. The dark coffee table was back. The floral chairs were gone. The security cameras stayed, though, because trust had become something I was no longer willing to hand out, just because someone shared my last name. Jessica and I had started talking more. At first, it was practical. She checked in after the wedding. I asked how her new apartment was coming together. She told me about the stress of rebuilding after divorce, about buying plates that were only hers, about sleeping better in a place where no one could slam doors or turn silence into punishment. Then last Sunday evening, she called, and I knew immediately something was wrong. Her voice was too quiet. "Joanna," she said, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." My stomach tightened. She told me small things had been changing in her apartment. Towels replaced with different ones. Kitchen items swapped out for better versions. Throw pillows changed to ones that matched her couch more perfectly. A framed print from her hallway gone, replaced by something softer, calmer, less bold. I did not speak for a few seconds. Then she said, "Does that sound familiar?" I sat down slowly. Jessica had blamed stress. She had blamed the move, the divorce, exhaustion, grief, anything except the obvious. Our parents had a key for emergencies, just like they had with me. Then she came home early from work with a migraine and found our mother inside her apartment, rearranging her bookshelf and changing picture frames. She told me she was helping me create a more positive environment, Jessica said. She said some of my things reminded me of negative experiences and I needed to move past them. I closed my eyes. It was happening again. But this time, Jessica had caught her. The argument that followed at Jessica's apartment apparently ripped open something much older. Our mother did not deny it. She explained it. Calmly. Confidently. Like she had been waiting years for someone to finally appreciate the work she had been doing. She told Jessica she had been managing our living spaces for years. Years. Jessica and I stayed on the phone for almost 3 hours after that, comparing memories like two detectives walking through a crime scene we had lived inside our whole lives. My missing college sweatshirt, Jessica's favorite lamp disappearing after her first anniversary, clothes we thought we had misplaced, decorations that seemed to change between visits, little things removed, replaced, improved. Our mother had been editing us, quietly, gradually, with a smile. She said she changed your dorm decorations once, Jessica whispered, because they looked too juvenile. A memory flashed through me. Freshman year, posters missing. New bedding I did not choose. My mother saying I had probably packed the old things away. I felt cold all over. The furniture swap at my apartment had not been some sudden overreaction to Jessica's divorce. It had been the first time our mother changed too much too quickly. The first time her control became visible. Then Jessica said something I will never forget. I don't think the plan was ever really for me to move in with you. I frowned. What do you mean? I think that was the cover story. I think they used my divorce because it made the whole thing sound urgent and emotional. But the real goal was to redo both apartments. Yours first, then mine. Maybe they would have kept the move-in story alive for a while, then said I was ready to live alone again. The more she talked, the more terrifyingly possible it sounded, because our mother had opinions about everything. Our furniture, our clothes, our food, our friends, our careers. Even Daniel, who she liked only when he agreed with her and became too opinionated the moment he supported me. Jessica and I had spent years believing we were different people with different problems. I was the stubborn one. She was the fragile one. I was independent. She needed saving. But maybe those roles had been handed to us and repeated until we believed them. That night, Jessica changed her locks. Then she called our parents and told them she wanted a list of everything they had taken or changed. The explosion came fast. My father called me the next morning, furious. What did you say to your sister? The truth. You've poisoned her against us. No, I said. You broke into both of our homes. My mother sent messages that began with heartbreak and ended with accusations. We were ungrateful. We were cruel. We were punishing her for caring. We were turning against family. But this time, Jessica and I answered together. No more keys. No more entering our apartments. No more changing, taking, replacing, organizing, improving, or planning anything in our lives without permission. For the first time, we were not standing on opposite sides of our parents' story. We were standing beside each other, and that made us harder to control. Jessica and I met at a coffee shop before the family meeting. She had a notebook in front of her, full of bullet points and dates. I had printed screenshots from my camera footage, copies of texts, and a list of boundaries Daniel had helped me word in a way that sounded calm instead of furious. We sat across from each other, two grown women preparing to confront the people who had raised us. And somehow it felt like studying for an exam we had been failing our entire lives. We don't let them split us up, Jessica said. We don't let them change the subject, I added. And if Mom cries, we let her cry. Jessica looked down at her coffee, then smiled faintly. That might be the hardest one. The meeting was at our parents' house, in the same living room where I had confronted them months earlier. My mother had clearly prepared. Tissues sat on the table within reach. Family photos were spread across the mantel like silent witnesses. She had baked my childhood favorite cookies, the ones she used to make when she wanted me softened before a difficult conversation. My father started first. I'm glad we're all finally sitting down like adults to clear up this misunderstanding. He said misunderstanding like a shield. Jessica did not let it pass. This wasn't a misunderstanding, she said. You both entered our homes without permission. Mom changed our belongings. You made decisions about our lives without asking us. My mother's eyes filled immediately. I only ever wanted what was best for my daughters. I felt the old guilt rise, familiar and heavy. Then Jessica reached under the table and squeezed my hand. I opened my folder. For the next 20 minutes, we laid it all out. The furniture swap, the spare keys, the plan to move Jessica into my apartment without consent, the things that had disappeared from Jessica's place, the college dorm decorations, the clothes, the towels, the picture frames, the years of little changes we had been taught to dismiss. At first, my mother defended everything. That couch was awful. Those towels were depressing. Jessica needed a fresh start. Joanna, your apartment looks so cold. Then my father went quiet, really quiet. When Jessica mentioned a painting that had disappeared from her bedroom the year before, he turned to my mother. Linda, he said slowly, did you take that painting? My mother stiffened. It didn't match anything, but it was hers. The room changed after that. It was like my father was seeing the pattern for the first time, not as isolated acts of help, but as years of control. He asked about my missing college sweatshirt. He asked about Jessica's lamp. He asked whether my mother had really been replacing things without telling us. My mother kept saying it was different. It was love. It was care. It was what mothers did. Then my father asked the question that finally broke through. How would you feel if your mother had done this to you? The silence was brutal. My grandmother had always criticized my mother's house, her clothes, her cooking, her choices. My mother had complained about it for years. She knew exactly how it felt to be corrected inside your own life. That's not the same, she whispered. How? My father asked. She had no answer. The apology did not come immediately. First came more tears, then anger, then a long, exhausted silence. But eventually, my mother looked at us and said, I was wrong. Not perfect, not dramatic, but real. She admitted she had confused control with care. She admitted she had convinced herself that because she knew better, she had the right to act without asking. She apologized to Jessica for using her divorce as an excuse. She apologized to me for letting me think I might be losing my mind. That one hurt the most. We set rules. No keys to our apartments. No entering our spaces without explicit permission. No taking, replacing, organizing, decorating, donating, buying, or changing anything that belongs to us. No making plans about our lives without including us. And if those rules were broken, contact would become limited immediately. My father agreed first. My mother took longer. It has been 2 months since that conversation. Things are not perfect, but they are different. My mother still starts to offer decorating advice sometimes, but my father has gotten surprisingly good at stopping her. Linda, he says, they didn't ask. Jessica and I are closer than we have been since childhood. We text regularly. We meet for dinner without our parents. We talk about things we used to avoid because we were too busy being placed into roles neither of us chose. My apartment finally feels like mine again. Every piece of furniture is something I chose. My black leather couch is back where it belongs. My dark wood coffee table sits in the center of the room. The security cameras are gone because I do not need them anymore, but the locks are changed and staying that way. Sometimes I look around and realize how small this victory might seem to someone else. A couch, a coffee table, a set of keys. But to me, it is everything. I am 33 years old, and for the first time in my life, I feel like I have complete ownership of my own space, my own choices, and my own voice. Family is complicated, but boundaries make everything simpler.